Ninjago, the old TV show that we all used to watch. I decided, and since Lego was kind enough to post all of their episodes for free on YouTube, to rewatch all of Lego Ninjago and rank the music and listen to it, listen for the themes, and try to analyze at least some of the music. Well, I can tell you that I have done that. And since I am not at work today because I decided to twist my ankle playing soccer with a friend, I have time to record this video. So, without further ado, let's jump in. And of course, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't watched it, I would stop right now, watch it, and then come back. All right, let's kick things off with the pilot episodes. The pilot episodes is where it all starts, where Ninjago starts. We're introduced into a host of new themes in this season, in these 4 episodes, in fact, or 2, whichever country or location you live. I hear that they've condensed them down to 2 videos. But you're introduced to the main theme, which, let's be honest, is just iconic. It has a great use of the pentatonic scale and Near Eastern music. It also introduces us to the themes for dragons, which are later expanded on in the Hunted season. We also get the theme for Spinjitzu and Wu's theme, followed by Lord Garmadon's brooding theme with the 3 notes D, F, and C sharp. Excellent use of the theme. Now, where does this season rank? Honestly, the tracks are pretty basic and what you would expect from watching a Ninjago season. However, we get so many great themes. The main theme, the Wu theme, the Lord Garmadon theme, which are pretty much really essential in future seasons. So I have to go at minimum A tier. I mean, it is basic. This is the first season. It's the standard that we measure the other seasons against, essentially. We'll leave it in A tier for now. We might change it in the future. And for the best track in this season, you got to go with the Overture theme, guys. The Overture is the best track in the season. All right, moving on. Season 2, or Season 1 per se, those were the pilot episodes. Season 1, Rise of the Snakes. This sets up the whole series where we get the pinnacle and climax in the following season. But in this season, we're firstly introduced to the Serpentine theme, which is a very interesting theme, mainly used on pizzicato strings. What I have noticed in all of these seasons is that most of the villain themes, in fact, almost all of them, are played on string instruments, whereas more of the heroes, the ninjas, and the characters helping the ninjas, etc., tended to use more brass and woodwind instruments rather than the strings. Now, the Serpentines, they are the villains in this season, essentially. Not the main ones, but they are villains. So they're using a lot of pizzicato strings in a chromatic way for this theme. We're also introduced to Pythor's theme. Now, Pythor's very interesting theme, as his theme is mainly played on a string bass, and oftentimes with a harpsichord accompanying it. Very interesting combination right there. We're also introduced to the legendary Green Ninja theme in this season. Ooh, this theme gets me pumped when it gets played. We're also introduced to some great melodies such as the Garmadon family theme, the Falcon melody, the Great Devourer theme, which is very cool because it is very similar to the Serpentine theme, since the Great Devourer is a very, very big snake. Great Devourer uses a lot of chromatic steps as well, a lot of half steps in its theme. We're also introduced to 2 following themes, Samurai X theme and Dr. Julian's theme. Zane's father, if you remember, is also played a couple of times in this season and a few following seasons. It doesn't appear too many times. I would say the best track, in my opinion, in this season is Taking the Bait, when the ninja take on the Great Devourer. It's a great track. Sounds good. Great action soundtrack as well. It's reprised in a lot of themes after. So, I mean, if I'm honest, you can't go below S tier. Okay, guys. All right, that leaves me with the second season now, the sequel to the first season. It comes number 2 comes after 1 after all. Legacy of the Green Ninja. This is a great season. It introduces us to the theme of Misako, and it gives us the great Overlord theme, a series of descending half steps about a fifth apart. The Overlord theme appears in, I believe, 3 seasons, as far as I know. It appears in this season, it appears in the following season in Rebooted, and when he shows up again in Crystallized. Great theme, by the way. We're also introduced into the Stone Army theme. This season is basically the only appearance of the Stone Army theme. However, it is reprised in the Sons of Garmadon seasons to represent the big colossus that Garmadon controls. So it does appear in one other season. And again, we see heavily a lot of the Ninjago theme in this season. We see the Overlord theme. We see the Green Ninja theme. We see a lot of the Garmadon theme in this season. Overall, this is a great season. The best track, by far, is the final battle, although the Temple of Light track is pretty good as well. Is this better than the pilots? Better than the Rise of the Snakes? Yes, I think the Rise of the Snakes introduces us to a lot of great themes that we know and love. However, I don't think the tracks themselves in this season are better than the Green Ninjas, the Legacy of the Green Ninja. So because of that, I'm going to have to put Legacy of the Green Ninja in S tier. It has some fire tracks in the season, and it also introduces us to a lot of other cool themes that appeared later. Alright, this brings us to where the franchise... Is this rebooted? That should be rebooted, right? Yes, I think that's rebooted. I haven't seen that trailer art yet before. Alright, rebooted season only really introduces us to one new theme, and that's the Ninjoid theme. Very techno-styled, like the whole season. This season takes a very unique approach, I would say, on the Ninjago music. It uses a lot of heavy synthesizers rather than full orchestral notation and such. So it has a very unique style in the season. And originally, when I first watched it when I was younger, I really did not like Rebooted. I thought the season was really bad, in my opinion. But having watched it over, I think Rebooted is a pretty decent season. It's not the best one out there, but I think what Michael Kramer and Jay Vincent did for the music was very creative. I would say the best tracks in this season are My World, My Rules, when they go visit the Overlord in the techno kind of universe. I don't know the official term. And Built to Protect, obviously, when Zane sacrifices himself at the end of the season. Is this going in A tier, B tier? The tracks are very unique. I could listen to a lot of these tracks in the background any day of the week. They kind of all seem pretty similar at some points, though, and I think that's the danger, what you get when you overuse a lot of synthesizers in your pieces. A lot of the tracks don't sound very unique and different from each other, but the overall feeling of this season is very unique, and so for that reason, I think I will put it in B tier. Very, very unique style of music, but overall, not the best. Better than the first 3 seasons, although the techno Overlord theme is pretty cool. Alright, that brings us to the 4th season, the Tournament of Elements season, or as Chen likes to say, the Tournament of Elements. I don't know how good my impression was. You rate it in the comments, though. Alright, we get introduced to a total of 3 new themes in this season. We're introduced to the Anacondrae theme, which I think is very cool and unique because the Anacondrae, as you know, are snakes. They are the snakes. And you'd kind of think that they'd have very similar orchestration to the other snake themes, being the Great Devourer we've had already, and the Serpentine themselves, using a lot of pizzicato strings and chromatics things. But the Anacondrae, they're a different sort of snakes than those ones. They're noble. They're different. And so the music reflects that. Their orchestration is more brass and has a more of a heroic kind of feel to it because after all, the Anaconda, they're on the good side compared to what Chen thinks, which that's a great segue into our theme for Chen. Chen, for some reason in this season, is just absolutely obsessed with snakes, and his theme really reflects that. His conniving, scheming self is represented with a lot of pizzicato strings, like many of the snake themes beforehand, and it's simply, I think, a good reference to it for those of you who haven't watched the season, hinting at perhaps he's not who he thinks, who the screen displays him as. And then the final theme we're introduced to is Skylar's theme. Doesn't appear too much in this season, mainly for the love scenes between Kai and Skylar. It does appear, though, and reprise itself in the Hunted season, where she features a more prominent role with the Resistance in that season. Overall, best tracks in this season are Opening the Cursed Realm, great action track that is replayed in a lot of seasons after it, and same with the final round when Lloyd ends up fighting Chen, and Chen absolutely dominates Lloyd with all of his elemental powers. That one is also reused in a lot of other action scenes later. So because of that, I'm going to have to put this in A tier. Great season, great soundtracks that are reused, and we all know we're going to in for a good scene when those tracks replay. A tier, I would say. It's better than the pilot tracks, although the pilot has great themes. This season has a lot of great tracks, doesn't introduce too many cool and unique themes, though. Which leads us to the fifth season, Possession, which some people consider to be the best season in Ninjago. In my opinion, it is up there with the top three. Right now, I don't know if I would say that is the top one, but Possession, man oh man, this was a great season, regardless. Came out, gave us Moro as the villain. Now, Moro was interesting. He's the first character in Ninjago to actually have two different themes encompassing him. One tends to be the devil, what's referred to as the Devil's Octave. That's his first theme. And then Devil's Interval, not octave. And then we're introduced to another theme that seems to be more emotional in its writing. But I can't really tell what it means fully. Then we're introduced to the themes for Nia, Air Jitsu, Ronin, and then Yang's theme, mainly used in the episode where they visit his haunted house and learn how to do Air Jitsu. Sorry, they get the scroll of Air Jitsu from it. But also, this theme is also used for the Preeminent later in the season, when the Preeminent comes and starts trying to take over Ninjago with all of her ghosts and everything. Best soundtrack in this one has to be Gateway Complete. Great use of the Yang theme as well as Moral's theme and the Green Ninja theme. Moral's theme, I think, is one of the top 5 themes overall in Ninjago. I think it's greatly written, both the first and second theme that was created for him. However, I don't think that this season has the best soundtrack in the world. Do I think it's better than Tournament of Elements? Not really. There's not a lot of soundtracks, that are used in the 5th season, Possession, and reused in future seasons, whereas Tournament of Elements has a lot of themes that are reprised in future seasons. Which then brings us to Skybound. Now, Skybound is a very interesting season. It seems like, from what I've heard, they had a little budget problem regarding the music, at least. So there's not a lot of new tracks in this season. It's a lot of reprisals from season 4 and season 5. I don't think that much of the Possession reprisals from the previous season do well in this season, considering the mood of each season is very, very different. Let's just say, if you're a film geek, Possession would be directed by Christopher Nolan, and this season would have been directed by a completely different director, maybe Steven Spielberg. The theme for both seasons are just way too different, and I don't think they work too well with each other, is what I'm trying to get. We do get 2 new themes in this season. We got Nadakan's theme and the theme for Jin's, which it has a brief appearance in the beginning of Sons of Garmadon Sons of Garmadon season, excuse me. But not a lot of new tracks here. A lot of rehashes of old tracks. Because of that, I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. What Michael Kramer and Jay Vincent did with the few two themes that they had, I thought was very creative and good. But with all of the reprisals from previous seasons, I just can't rank it higher than that. Day of the Departed, pretty same boat. It's mostly reprised. There's not a lot of new soundtracks in this season. So, and it's pretty basic, so I would give it a C tier rating. Which brings us to the decisive and divisive season 7, which was appearingly supposed to wrap up the trilogy much like the second season was supposed to. But as we know, and as we can see down here, there are a bunch more seasons that came after this. But I think a lot of people also complain about how rushed this season was. Yes, I think the animation is a little buggy at sometimes, but I still think it's a pretty good season. This season, thematically and musically, introduces us to 3 main new themes. There's a bunch of sub-themes in this season, musically, that is. But the main 3 are the Time Twins themes, and interestingly enough, they also have tune themes like Moro. It's hard to differentiate what each one tends to represent. One idea I had was maybe one theme per twin. There's twins, after all, are 2 people, 2 themes, perhaps one for each. Don't know. The scoring of the music doesn't tend to lend itself toward that interpretation, but who knows? We're also introduced to a theme for Kai's and Nia's parents, who are actually blacksmiths, and also have the elemental powers of fire and water. And this is a very bold and heroic theme that I think is very well done. And finally, the third theme is the theme for the Vermilion Warriors, which are the snake warriors that work for the Time Twins. This is actually a really good remix or rewriting, to say, of the Great Devourer theme. This theme features heavily the chromatic scale, which is what we remember is featured heavily for all of the snake themes in previous seasons. And I think this is quite fitting because, after all, according to the lore, I believe, the Vermilion Warriors are the offspring of the Great Devourer. So I think this is very creatively done by Michael and Jay. So this is very good. Best score, I would say, for this season is Meet the Parents, when Kai and Nia meet up with their parents and they give them the whole backstory, or at least more context of the backstory of their past with the Time Twins. Overall, I think this season does pretty good with its music. Is it the best one? No, I would say I would put this in upper B tier. I think it's better than Rebooted, but it's not better than the pilot seasons for sure. Alright, this brings us to the reboot of the franchise, where we get all new looks of the ninja basically, and we get introduced to this banger of a season, the Sons of Garmadon. Man, this season it was so good. This season introduces us to a huge host of new themes. First theme we get is the Sons of Garmadon theme, representing the biker gang, essentially, that has, Garmadon's symbol kind of all over their gear. So I think some of them have tattoos of it. But this theme is a great remix of Garmadon's theme in 7/8 of all-time signatures. I think they did a great job of, because after all, these bikers are themed after Garmadon, so I think it's quite fitting that their theme is a variation of Garmadon's theme. We're then introduced to Harumi's theme. This theme was so great, and I think tricked almost everybody who was watching the episode. Her theme starts out on these flute instruments and suddenly switches later in the season to deep, mean strings that just get you angry almost, in a sense. Not actually angry, but as we know, most of the villain themes are written in strings. So I like what Jay and Michael did here, tricking all of us musically to thinking Harumi was on our side when she in fact wasn't. The three other remaining themes we have are the ancient history theme, which are mainly played when the story about the Oni and the dragon are explained. And then we're introduced to the first of the Oni themes. The Oni seem to have two themes in this trilogy, essentially. In the first two, in Hunted and Sons of Garmadon, we're introduced to their first theme, which is more mellow of a version, more sits in the background, because the Oni haven't fully revealed themselves and haven't started attacking Ninjago. But they're still waiting there in the background, waiting to strike. So as we learn more about the Oni, that theme starts appearing more and more. And then the second theme, a more aggressive, in-your-face theme, appears in the end of the trilogy, the March of the Oni. Then finally, the last theme is a version of the Oni theme representing the Oni masks. And this usually plays when an Oni mask is being worn or one of the bikers or the ninja are grabbing the mask. I would say the best tracks in this season, boy, they have a bunch of great tracks in this season, is the Sons of Garmadon heist, Harumi's unmasking, as well as Garmadon's true potential in this season. This season has a lot of banger tracks, and I'm sorry, this season needs to straight up to S tier. We get all of the old themes coming back in this season. Garmadon's theme, Wu's theme, the Ninja's theme, the Green Ninja's theme. All of the themes come here. And a bunch of great new themes appear as well that, I'm sorry, if this is not your favorite season musically, I'm sorry, you're just wrong. This is the best season musically. Which leads us to the second season in the Oni trilogy, Hunted. This theme features a lot of expansion of the original dragon theme we actually saw in the pilot episodes and in the first season. It doesn't appear too much in the other seasons, but we see an expansion of it. The melody is extended out. It's more heroic in a lot of sections, better orchestration. We're introduced to a couple of new themes here, though. We get a theme for the Iron Baron, the evil overlord of the Dragon Hunters, and the Dragon Hunters themselves get their own theme as well. It's a very fast, aggressive theme with a lot of string glissandos, accompanied with a lot of heavy percussion, and these interesting digital war horns that accompany it. And usually when this music is playing, the Iron Baron theme is usually playing with it. It's usually played when they're hunting the ninja or hunting some dragons. We get a theme for Faith as well, and a theme for the Resistance as well. Overall, this season has pretty good music. It also reprises a lot of the tracks from the previous season, Sons of Garmadon, in this season, with an addition of even more tracks in this as well. And I would say the best tracks in this one are Dragon Ride and I Can Resist You. Overall, I think this season is good. Do I think it reaches the level of the Sons of Garmadon season from before? I don't think it does. I think I'm going to rank it as the lowest A-tiered soundtrack of all of them. That's my opinion, though, which leaves us to the Oni, the last one, the March of the Oni, I think this season was called. And we're introduced, the only real new theme is that secondary Oni theme, which I was talking about previously, as well as mainly the Tornado of Creation theme, which I believe shows up again, and much of the main Ninjago themes, your typical Wu theme, your Garmadon theme, the Ninja, etc., Wu's theme. Best soundtrack has to be March of the Oni from it. Do I think this season does a lot of creative things with its music? No, I think it's a reference back to a lot of the original music found in the pilot episodes and the first and second season. Do I think it's done as good as those seasons? I don't think so. And so I think I'm going to have to put this season as an upper C tier. I can't even remember much of the tracks from the season. If it's a good season, I can remember the names of the tracks. I can't really remember any of them. I had to look up the soundtracks and listen to a lot of the pieces over again for me to even remember what they sound like. Which, if your track is not memorable, like everybody can hum the main Ninjago theme, then it really shouldn't appear again. Now, I actually haven't seen any of these other seasons back here, with the exception of Crystallized. Boy, that season was a piece of garbage. I don't remember much of the music. I don't think it was the best, though. But I'm not going to rate it off of my poor memory, and I'm not going to rate these other seasons because I think they're bad. I think everything from the Oni trilogy before is great, but I don't want to watch any of this stuff. I think Ninjago ended on a pretty okay note with the Oni trilogy, and I don't think it needed to have gone on. But here are my rankings for all of the first one. Is that 10 seasons? Yes, because Sons of Garmadon's 8, then 9, and then 10. So here's the ranking for the first 10 seasons. Let me know what you think about. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of different opinions than me on this. Let me know, though, and maybe I'll make some more videos about film music or TV shows. Just let me know. Thanks for watching. If you could subscribe if this video was helpful and you enjoyed it. If not, don't feel pressured to. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.